My dear friends, myself Dr. Pramod Kumar Gupta. I am inviting Dr. S.K. Tyagi sir for today's program. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod Gupta, and good afternoon to all, and welcome to the day 4. As you might be knowing, today's session is on chi-square test. Actually, chi-square test has been divided into two sessions. Today, first session, and tomorrow I will be taking the concluding session. So let me introduce the this particular test, chi-square test, and we go to presentation. Am I visible, audible,
Sir, your
visible,
yes,
audible?
we are looking your PPT, but we are not able to look you.
What, you are not able to see the PPT?
PPT we are looking,
Okay, acha, okay. My camera is
but
not on, perhaps. Okay, let me check. Yes, camera was off.
thank you, sir.
Okay, is everything okay now?
Yes, sir.
PPT is
Everything is
PPT is visible, and PPT wala is also visible.
yes, sir.
So our topic is chi-square test, and today we will be taking up two issues, two particular types of chi-square test. One is one sample chi-square test, another is 2 by 2 cross tabulation, and the remaining part will be taken up tomorrow. So the presentation agenda, as usual, I will be discussing what we will be covering in this session. First of all, what are the characteristics of chi-square test? This is our first. We will be opening up with this characteristic. I will be enumerating the characteristics of chi-square test, and then research situation which are appropriate for the use of chi-square test. What kind of situation calls for application of chi-square test? Next, we will be taking up assumptions underlying chi-square test. There are not many assumptions underlying chi-square test, unlike parametric tests. Assumptions are few and weak. Then research objective and null hypothesis. Okay, these will be taken up from the point of view of three types of hypothesis. One is hypothesis of equal probability. What is it? And in what situation we frame this hypothesis, we will be discussing. Then hypothesis of known proportions. And finally, hypothesis of independence of attributes. Then we will be conducting one sample chi-square test in two ways. One way is using one sample option in SPSS, and the other way is using legacy dialog option. There is a little difference between these two approaches. Some advantages of first approach, some advantages of second approach. But in any case, we must learn both of these so that we are aware that the chi-square test can be performed using two alternative approaches in SPSS. Finally, chi-square in 2 by 2 cross tabulation. And lastly, effect size in case of chi-square, how to find out effect size and interpret it. So one by one, I will be taking up first characteristics. And one point remain, chi-square test in case of violation of assumptions. Suppose assumptions are not satisfied. Suppose assumptions are violated, then what should we do? So this is the sequence of presentation. So let us take characteristics of chi-square test. See, chi-square test is a non-parametric test, and uh, tests are called non-parametric because this particular test does not make any assumption regarding the distribution of the parameter. Parameter is a statistical measure relating to population. For example, when we apply t-test, we assume that the data should be normally distributed in the population. That is we are making assumptions with regard to parameter. Parameter is statistical measure related to population. Statistics is statistical measure related to sample. So non-parametric test does not make any distributional assumption that this distribution should be normal or homogeneous. Then it requires lesser number of assumptions, and the assumptions are quite weak, not very strong. Then they require this chi-square test, though, and some other non-parametric tests also, they require nominal scale or ordinal scale. But this chi-square test requires nominal scale variable, a categorical variable, a variable which can only be classified. This is the lowest level of requirement. So it works with lowest level of requirement with regard to the level of measurement. Nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, ratio scale. We can perform this test even on nominal scale. Parametric tests usually require at least interval scale. They cannot be performed if the variable is below interval scale. Nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now, this parametric test work here, and non-parametric test work on all these. The non-parametric test can be performed on ordinal scale variable also, nominal scale variable also. But a parametric test like t-test, NOR, regression, correlation, they cannot be performed here except for some measure. And so for example, there are non-parametric correlations also. So that is non-parametric. So the requirement with regard to scale is very weak. We want to know just nominal scale variable. And this chi-square test is a test of goodness of fit. That means how well the observed distribution fits to a normal to a theoretical distribution. So there are two distributions. One is that which we are observing. Another is which is a theoretical distribution. So we are always comparing these two distributions. That is, we are comparing frequencies, and these frequencies are of two types. One is observed frequency, another is theoretical frequency. So we are in fact comparing FO and FE, whether they are same or they are not same, they are different. And finally, chi-square test is also a test of independence of attributes. We will see this, what does it mean? And it may be one sample as well as k sample. K sample means more than one sample, two sample, three sample, etc. Now, situation for the use of chi-square test. Now, chi-square test is used when we have a categorical outcome variable. Data is in the form of frequencies. The purpose is to find out if the observed frequency distribution fits the hypothesized distribution. And this is a test of significance of difference between observed frequencies denoted by FO and theoretical frequencies denoted by FE. For example, a researcher wishes to test whether the frequencies of boys and girls dropping out of a particular stage of education, you know, is equal. I want to know whether in primary stage boys drop more or girls. So we have a population of boys, you know, primary school children, girls, primary school children, and we want to compare whether the among dropouts, whether boys are more or girls are more. Do more girls drop out of school or more boys drop out of school? Now this is a situation which fits the use of chi-square test. Why? Because we have frequencies of boys and frequencies of girls. Gender is the variable, and boys and girls are two categories, and we can count the frequency here. Boys 10, girls 13. So we have a sample of 23 children randomly taken, and then these are the 23 dropouts from class 1. Okay, out of these 13 were girls and 10 were boys. So the question before us is, can we say that girls drop out of the school more frequently than boys? This is a situation fit for this. Now this is subject to fulfilling the assumptions of chi-square test. Now what are the assumptions of chi-square test? So one of the assumption is randomness. This is uniform in all parametric as well as non-parametric tests. The sample should be random. That is why only then we can infer about the, from sample we can infer about the population. Then the observation must be independent. Means if there are two categories, boys and girls, then they must be exclusive. They must be separate. Somebody should not be in boys as well as in girls. So these must be two separate quantities, independent of each other. And then this is the most important assumption underlying chi-square test, and this is with regard to frequencies, minimum frequency threshold. Chi-square test requires that the frequency should be at least up to a certain level. And what is that level? And the reference for this is Siegel, Sidney Siegel, non-parametric statistics. Now, in case of dichotomy, first look at this. In case of a dichotomy, none of the expected frequency should be less than 5. Now, this is a dichotomy. If your variable is categorized into two categories, two classes, okay, then it is a dichotomy. So the assumption is that frequency in each of these two classes should be at least 5 or more. And this is this is expected frequency, not observed frequency. One. Number two, in case of more than two categories, okay, suppose the variable is, say, religion. So there are more than two religions: Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Jain, others. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories. So in case of more than two categories, some of the categories or cell, so we have 6 cells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 frequencies. Now here the assumption is not that every frequency, expected frequency should be greater than 5 or greater than 5. But some of these frequencies may be less than 5. But such number should not exceed 20% of the total cell. Suppose there are 10 cells, okay? there are 10 categories. What is 20% of 10? 2. So in 2 of the cells, we may have frequency less than 5, but not more than 2. If 3 cells have expected frequency less than 5, then this particular assumption is violated. Now, in case of 2 by 2 contingency table, each expected frequency should be at least 5. Now, what is 2 by 2 contingency table? 2 by 2 contingency table is something like this. See, this is 2 by 2 contingency table. We have here we have, say, male, female, and here we have right, wrong. So male answering a question right, 15. Male answering a question wrong, 3. Female answering the question right, 20. Females answering this question wrong, 7. So 35, 10, 18, and 27. This arrangement of the data is known as 2 by 2 cross tabulation. We have now 2 things. One is gender. This is gender, and another is the response. So we are having this gender into response cross tabulation. So in this case, none of the expected frequency should be less than 5. We were here. In case of 2 by 2 contingency table, each expected frequency should be at least 5. There are 4 expected frequencies because there are 4 cells. None of this should be less than 5. Okay, these are the 3 assumptions. Minimum frequency threshold assumption. Now we come to research objective and null hypothesis, and this is the first kind of hypothesis. So we will be seeing what is this hypothesis, then a research situation which is appropriate for the use of this. First hypothesis is hypothesis of equal probability. Now situation is a researcher wishes to test whether the coin used for toss is biased or a fair one. For this, the coin is tossed a number of times and the occurrences are noted. So I want to know whether a coin, with which we perform toss in a match or a bet, whether this coin is fair or not. So we toss this coin, 15 times, 20 times, 100 times, and if this coin is fair, then we expect 50 times it should turn head and 50 times it should turn tail. If there is a difference, it is not 50-50, it is 20-80, then there is a serious question regarding the fairness of the toss, fairness of the coin. So this is a situation for hypothesis of equal probability, appropriate for the use of hypothesis of equal probability. The research objective in this case will be written like this: to compare the frequencies of head and tail on the several tosses of a coin. We want to compare the frequencies of head and tail. And null hypothesis will be there is no significant difference in the frequencies of the occurrences of head and tail, or upon several tosses of a coin, head and tail will turn up in equal number. Because we are saying that head and tail will turn in equal number, that is, they are equally probable. Head is the probability of head is equal to the probability of tail. So this particular situation is very appropriate for framing the hypothesis of equal probability. The question before us is that we are having 30 head and 70 tail, whereas it should have been 50-50. This is the expected. Supposing the coin is fair, we should expect 50 head and 50 tail. But actually with this particular coin, we are having 30 head and 70 tail. Is there any difference between these two, or this difference is due to chance or due to sampling fluctuations? This is the question which will be answered using chi-square test. So see, there are two things. One is the actual head and tail, occurrence of head and tail. This is observed frequency, 30, 70, head, tail. Okay, and we expect, supposing the coin to be fair, we expect that it should be 50-50. So actually this is our theoretical distribution, expected distribution, and this distribution is our observed distribution. So our null hypothesis is that this observed distribution, there is no significant difference in the observed distribution and the theoretical distribution. Observed distribution is different from theoretical distribution, but this difference is not significant. That is, we are testing the hypothesis of equal probability. So I pointed out one research situation where we use hypothesis of equal probability. Everywhere we do not use this particular hypothesis. Why? Because we may have different type of question, different type of situation. So let us see the second type of hypothesis, and this is not hypothesis of equal probability, but hypothesis of known or theoretical proportion. We don't expect that each category will be having equal likelihood of occurrence, but we postulate that some categories will have a particular proportion of occurrence in relative to the other. The research situation appropriate for the use of this is a researcher wishes to test whether the admission in a course are in accordance with the state reservation policy or not. Suppose a college is free to make its own admissions. Government has given guidelines that admission should be according to particular reservation policy. Now that particular college admits the students in accordance with the reservation policy or not. We can test this hypothesis, and here we will have the hypothesis of known proportion. So now FO, okay, and this was FE. So in the first example, FE were derived from the hypothesis of equal probability, that every category is equally probable. FE, from where did we derive FE? Assuming that every category is equal. The frequency in each category is equal. But in this particular case, we are not making this particular assumption, but we are making assumption that the frequencies are expected in a definite proportion. Suppose there are now 4 categories: open, or unreserved. Okay, unreserved, SC, ST, OBC. Now you have economically weaker section also. These are the 4 categories. These are the observed frequencies. Say out of 100, we have 60, 20, 10 and 10. Suppose. Now, according to the first hypothesis of equal probability, all these would have been equal. But there is no sense in saying that all these are equal. Are unreserved, the number of students admitted from this unreserved background, SC background, ST background, OBC background, OBC category, are they equal? There is no sense in posing this question. Sense is whether they are in definite proportion. And what is definite proportion? As per state reservation policy, say this should be 50%, this should be say 20%, this should be 10%, and this should be 20%. Then these expected frequency will come from this reservation policy of the state. So this is a different situation. Now the research objective will be like this: to compare the category-wise frequency of students admitted to a course with the expected frequencies as per state policy. And null hypothesis will be there is no significant difference in the category-wise frequency of student admitted to a course with the expected frequencies as per the state policy. The only difference is in both the hypotheses, one thing is common. We are having categories, 1, 2, 3, 4 categories, and we have some frequencies in these categories. Now, whether these frequencies are equal or not, this is the hypothesis number 1. Whether these frequencies are in some definite proportion or not, this is hypothesis number 2. Now, there is a third hypothesis, and this is a hypothesis of independence of attribute. In case of 2 by 2, in case of 2 by 2 frequency table, we took this example, 2 by 2 frequency table. Here it was gender, row, column was response. So the question before us is, are these two interdependent or they are independent of each other? Is response influenced by the gender or response is independent of gender? So this is a hypothesis of independence of attribute, that these two attribute means properties. These two properties, these two characteristics, these two variables are not related. They are not dependent on each other. They are independent of each other. This is the third. This is the third hypothesis. Case 3 is hypothesis of independence of attribute. A researcher wishes to test, the situation is like this. A researcher wishes to test whether the response of the students to an item is independent of their gender. For this, data are collected from a random sample of students and arranged in a 2 by 2 contingency table. Now, objectives written in this particular case is that to study the interdependence of the response between the students and their gender. Interdependence of the response and the gender. And null hypothesis is that there is no significant interdependence between the response and the gender, or the response of the student is independence of their gender. Gender and response, they are independent. These two attributes are independent. They are not related. a particular kind of gender will make a particular kind of response. Boys will make incorrect response and girls will make correct response. You know, if such is the situation, then the two are related. So these are the three things which we will discuss now. First, I take up the data with regard to one-way chi-square test, one sample chi-square test, and we will explore the one sample option. And hypothesis is hypothesis of equal probability. Now, one way of one sample chi-square test and its interpretation, we are taking example number 1. Now, this is the example. In a random sample of 100 students admitted to B.Ed program, there were 27 science, 35 social science, 21 humanities, 7 vocational, and 10 other stream students. Do every stream student have an equal chance of admission in B.Ed? See, now note this research situation. Research question is whether the admission process acts in favor of some particular type of students and works against some other type, other stream students. So we collected a data, random sample of 100 students. We asked them what is their academic background. Then we found that 27 students belong to science stream, 35 to social science, 21 to humanities, 7 vocational, and 10 other streams. Okay. Now, what is the hypothesis from which we will derive the expected frequency? Hypothesis is that every stream is equally likely. Every stream, the students from every stream are expected to be admitted, have equal chances to be admitted in B.Ed program. So for this, we need to conduct a chi-square test. Okay. And we will use one sample option, but before that, because it is quite easy, we can go into calculations also. There are two options. One is one sample, other is legacy. We will take one sample option first, but before that, let us take up this example manually. Now, because it will not take much time. So how does chi-square gets computed? So this is stream, science, social science, humanities, vocational, others, and total. This is observed distribution. FO is observed frequency. FE is expected frequency. Now our hypothesis is that all these categories are equally likely because there are 100 students. Okay, so if everyone has equal probability of getting admitted, then we expect that all these 5 categories will have expected frequency 20. Hypothesis of equal probability. Probability is equal. So there are 100, there are 5 categories. So in each category, we must have 100 divided by 5, that is 20 frequencies. Now there is a deviation from this. Science students are 27, okay, but as if null hypothesis is true, they should be 20. So there is a difference of 7. Here there is a difference is more, 15. In this case, almost there is no difference. Vocational 7, but 20 should be there if everyone has equal chance of getting admitted. And lastly, 10 are there, but there should have been 20 as per null hypothesis. Now there are differences between these two. But are these differences significant? How to go about it? So for this, we square their differences. So 27 minus 20 is 7. 7 square is 49. 35 minus 20, 15. 15 square is 225. 21 minus 21, 1. 1 square is 1. 7, 20 minus 7, 13. 13 into 13, 169, I think. 169. And 20 minus 10, 10. We are taking a square, so we can subtract 20 from 10 or 10 from 20. So 10, 100. Now divide each by 20. So 49 divided by 20. FO minus FE whole square by FE. 225 divided by 20. Okay, 1 divided by 20 and 169 divided by 20 and 100 divided by 20. If you solve it, you will get chi-square is 27.2. Now this is chi-square which will be interpreted whether it is significant or not. It may be significant, it may be not significant. And significance is to be interpreted at appropriate degree of freedom. And degree of freedom in this case is DF is number of categories minus 1. So there are 5 categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The degree of freedom is 1. Means we are free to take, suppose total is 100. We are free to take frequencies in 4 of the cells. 5th of the cell we are not free to take because the total should be 100. Suppose I have here 10, 10, 20, 20. So 40, 50, 60. So here I have no choice. If the sum is 60, then it must be 40. So degree of freedom is we are free to choose this, free to choose this, free to choose this, free to choose this, but not this. So degree of freedom is 4. So now we will see the table with degree of freedom 4. What is the critical value of chi-square? If our observed value exceeds this, then it is significant. But in SPSS, SPSS gives you p-value, and we compare it with alpha value. If it is less than or equal to alpha, then it is significant. If it is greater than alpha, it is not significant. This is how we calculate. Now let us see how in SPSS we can calculate chi-square. But first of all, let us see how to enter this particular data in SPSS. So I show you how to enter this data. So this is SPSS spreadsheet. So first of all, we define variable. As you know, we have just one variable here, and the name of the variable is academic background. Yeah, academic stream. Academic. We cannot give space here. Academic stream. This is our variable. And in this variable, this is nominal scale variable. So we have 5 categories and we have to label each category. So we come to this values and right click here, click in the right side of this. Here, this place. So we give value 1 to science. And then click add and to social science 3. 3 is humanities. Humanities. 4. 4 is vocational. And lastly, 5 is other stream. Remaining streams, all of these bundled in under this umbrella other. And just click OK. Okay. Now go to the data. Now this has been labeled as academic stream. So this is variable. And now we will enter these values as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 meaning science, 2 meaning social science, 3 meaning humanities, 4 stands for vocational, 5 stands for others. And let us see what is the data. Data is 2735. So 27 and then 35, 21, 7 and 10. Okay. So 27 is science background student. So we will enter 1 here because there are 100 sample size is 100. So we will have 100 rows, 100 row. So this is 1. 1 up to 27 we will enter 1, meaning that these 27 students are having science background. This is 1 up to 27. From 28 next 35. So 27 plus 35 is 62. Up to 62 we will go 2. 2 is social science. So we will have 35. No, so up to 62 we have to go. Up to 62, 2. Then 21. 62 plus 21 is 83. So next is, sorry, 3. Next stream is 3, humanities. After 62, 63rd is 3. 3 means humanities. And up to what? 83. Up to 83 we have 3. Then 7 are vocational. 4. 4 will be entered 7 times. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 and 4. And remaining 10 are 5 others. So this way we have entered the data. Just to check whether we have entered correctly or not, you have analyzed, go to descriptive, okay, and frequencies. Analyze descriptive frequency. And put academic stream there, academic stream, and just click OK. So this way we get this table. Science frequency 27, social science frequency 35, humanities frequency 21, vocational 7, others 10, total 100. That means we have entered the data correctly. Okay. If there were a mistake, it would have been reflected here. So I close this. I have shown you how to enter the data. Here there is just one variable and it is having 5 categories. So each category is given labeled as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can label one, any category you can label one, not necessarily in that order. Depends on you. So I close this because I have already entered this data. And see, this is data example. The same data I have entered. Now let us explore how to do it in SPSS. Stream, okay, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and up to this must go up to 100. So we have 100 rows. 100 rows means subject sample size is 100. And there is one variable only, stream. And stream has 5 categories. It is nominal scale variable. Okay. And there are various frequencies under various categories. Now, how to have chi-square value. So we go to analyze. Okay, and come down to non-parametric tests. Now these are the two options. One is one sample option and other is legacy dialog option chi-square. So we can follow these any of these routes. One is one sample route. Another is legacy dialog chi-square route. We will be taking up these two routes one by one. First we take the one sample route. So one sample. We will get the same result. In one sample option, this option gives you the results of hypothesis testing automatically. So this objective is automatically compare the observed data to hypothetical data. So by default, this particular is selected, then you need not change it. Then field. In field, this variable is already entered, you did not do anything else. Okay. In setting, we need not do anything else right now. You just click at the run this test. And you will get the output. So this is the output in the form of two tables. One table is hypothesis test summary and second table is this table, one sample chi-square test, and there are some graphs also. These are the graphs. So let us try to understand this and then learn how to write the interpretation. Now this is hypothesis test summary. Null hypothesis is the categories of academic stream of B.Ed occur with equal probability. Hypothesis of equal probability. Test is one sample chi-square test. Significance is 0.000. This is the p-value because it is smaller than the alpha level. Therefore, decision is to reject the null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is rejected. Okay. What is null hypothesis? That every categories of academic stream occur with equal probability. That means categories of academic stream of B.Ed student do not occur with equal probability. Probability is not equal. Some of the students have more probability to be selected, more chances to be selected relative to other students. And this gives you the total N and test statistics. Degree of freedom is 4 and again significance 0.000. And in the footnote of the table, you find there are 0 cells with expected frequency less than 5. Because one of our assumption is that each cell has at least 5 as expected frequency. This is not violated because there is no cell which is having expected frequency less than 5. Now go to the next. Because these observed and expected frequencies are not equal. Some of the expected frequencies are greater than observed frequencies. Some of observed frequencies are less than expected frequencies. See here. This is science stream. Blue is observed frequency, observed number of students admitted, and red is hypothesized or theoretical expected students. So in science, we are having more than expected students. In social science also, because blue rectangle is higher than the red rectangle. So we are having more social sciences students than expected. In humanities, there is not much difference. They are almost equal. And in professional and other, the relationship is reversed. In professional courses, in B.Ed, the student with professional background, vocational background, they are less than expected. Also, in other stream also, they are less than expected. So because the probabilities are not equal, then we have to further probe the question whether which kind of students they are getting to admitted, and which kinds of students they are having less chances of admission. And this is the observed frequency in each of these categories: science, social science, and all that. So I have taken this output in my presentation here. So we have this table 1, conducting chi-square test, one sample option. This is the first table, this is second table, and this one is that graph. Observed and hypothesized frequencies. Now let us see how do we write this interpretation. Now it is clear. We begin with the assumption, and assumption is to be interpreted by this footnote. So it is clear from the footnote to table 2 that none of the expected frequencies is less than 5. Thus, the assumption of minimum frequencies is not violated. So we must, first of all, before interpreting chi-square, we must check whether we can interpret this chi-square value or not. So in this particular case, we are not violating this assumption. Table 2 also shows that chi-square is 27.20. Okay. This is 27.200, degree of freedom 4, significance 0.2000. So degree of freedom 4 is significant at 0.01 level of significance because this is less than alpha value. Therefore, the null hypothesis that students of every stream have equal chance of admission to B.Ed is rejected. And this conclusion is also arrived at through results of table 1. Table 1 also says the same thing, that this null hypothesis is rejected. Now that means the students coming from some streams have greater chances of admission than others. And students from some other streams have less chance of admission than others, saying the same thing other way around. Now to find out, now we have to find out which stream have greater representation in admission. We need to follow it up. Okay, and I followed it up intuitively through this, that we expect this is significant difference, this is significant difference, this is not significant difference, this is significant difference, this is significant difference. They are in plus advantage, they are disadvantage. So science students, they are in an advantageous position, social science students are in an advantageous position, and there is a bias against professional and other streams. But this has to be tested statistically. Now this analysis is known as residual analysis. Post significance, if chi-square is not significant, okay, we need not do anything else, finish the end. And we conclude that every category has equal chance of being selected in B.Ed. But if chi-square is significant, okay, Then what? Then what? Therefore, this chi-square test is a general test. It does not give you further insight. It tells you there are differences between FO and FE, but where exactly are the differences, this chi-square test does not tell you. It is a general kind of test, treadmill test. It will tell you that there is some problem with your heart, but to find out where exactly is the problem, you must have angiography, whether there is blockage in vein 1 or first artery or second artery or third artery. So we have to do what is known as post hoc analysis. So post hoc test or residual analysis in this chi-square test. Now, complete residual analysis for one-way chi-square is not available as SPSS. Up to the end, it is not available, but up to certain level, we can use this. Now, what is residual analysis? First of all, let us understand what is residual. Residual is that what remains. It is FO minus FE. Residual is defined as difference between the observed frequency and the expected frequency. Then we have one standardized residual, and this is defined as residual divided by the standard error of the residual, and this is FE under root. So FO minus FE, this is residual, and if you divide it by square root of FE, it is standardized residual, where FO and FE are observed or expected frequencies, and standardized residual is interpreted in the same manner as Z is interpreted. That is, if standardized residual SR is greater than or equal to 1.96, this is the critical value, then it is significant at 0.05 level, and it is less than 1.96, it is not significant. So what do we do in order to find whether in these 5 categories there is a difference between FO and FE? We have to calculate 5 residuals with this formula, and resulting value will be interpreted using these guidelines. Now, this option, this one sample option, this does not give you the value of residual. We don't have the value of residual here. But if you follow the legacy dialog option, then you get the value of the residual. SPSS will give you the value of the residual. This was the data. And let us now follow the legacy dialog option. Normally, non-parametric test, legacy dialog, chi-square. So you take this variable here, and in this expected value, all categories equal is selected, just OK. So this is the output of using legacy dialog option. This is the output of chi-square test. There are 2 tables: academic history for BID student. This is observed frequency and expected frequency. In one sample option, we do not have expected frequency as well as residual numerically. From graph we can find out, but numerically we don't have. So legacy dialog option is more informative in this regard. It tells you what is the FE and what is the residual. Residual is FO minus FE, 27 minus 27. 35 minus 20, 15. 21 minus 21, 7 minus 20 minus 13. So minus sign means FO is less than FE. Plus sign means FO is greater than FE. Okay, we will use these residuals to find out standardized residual. SPSS does not give you directly standardized residual which we have to calculate. So we will use these to calculate standardized residual and then infer. Now table 3 and 4 gives you results similar to one sample option. However, legacy dialog option is advantage of having showing numerical values of FE and residual. Now standardized residual are yet to be calculated. We know that standardized residual is this FO minus FE upon under root FE. So for the first cell, science cell, residual is 7 and FE for everyone is 20. So 7 upon under root of 20. If you solve it using a simple calculator, it will be 1.7. For social science, it is 3.35. For humanities, it is 0.22. For vocational, it is 2.91. For other stream, it is minus 2. Okay, it here also it should be minus. Minus 13 divided by under root of 20. Now you simply what do you do? Now these are the standardized residual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Compare them with 1.96. This is less than 1.96. This is greater than 1.96. This is less than 1.96. This is absolute value. Leave disregarding minus. This is greater than 1.96. And this is also greater than 1.96. Disregarding sign. Sign just says that FO is less than FE. Now from this it is clear that only this one, these three are significant. In science, FO minus FE, this residual is not standardized residual is not significant. Although from graph it looked like there is a significant difference in expected and observed frequency, but this test does not corroborate the inference. So in social science, vocational and other streams, there is a significant difference in the observed frequency and expected frequency. Therefore, we can say that the admission process works in favor of social science student, but against the interest of the vocational and other streams. Interpretation. Clearly, standardized residual for social science is 3.35, which is greater than 2.58. Okay. At 0.05, the critical value is 1.96. 0.01, it is 2.58. So we can use even the higher level of significance. So for social science, chi-square, this standardized residual is greater than 2.58 and significant at 0.01 level of significance. Since standardized residual is positive, this means that observed frequency for social science stream is significantly greater than the expected frequency. Thus, the students of social science stream are getting admitted in greater proportion than expected. Similarly, standardized residual is negative and significant for each of the vocational and other streams. This is greater than 2.58, greater than 1.96. It can therefore be interpreted that students of these streams are getting admitted in lesser proportion than expected. Other standardized residual being less than 1.96 are not significant. So let us consolidate what we have learned. First, we applied chi-square test, okay, which is a general test to find out whether all the categories, all the 5 categories, they have equal probability or not. This is the null hypothesis. If this value chi-square value is not significant, then all categories are equally represented in the sample. But if chi-square is significant, some of the categories are represented more, overrepresented, overrepresentation is there. In some other categories, underrepresentation is there. But we do not know which category is overrepresented and which category is underrepresented. To know that, we have to follow it up with residual analysis. So for that, we calculate the standardized residual, which is FO minus FE divided by under root FE. And we compare it with critical values of 1 point, this is Z, 1.96 and 2.58. So this is how we conclude this first leg of the presentation. First hypothesis of equal probability. Now we take up the second one, and this is hypothesis of known proportion. Now, it's a situation for this is like this. In a district, the proportion of age-specific boys to girls is 10:9. There are 10 students and 10 boys and 9 girls. In a random sample of 190 class 1 enrolled students, 120 were boys and 70 girls. Do enrollments deviate from the boy-girl ratio of the district? This is the boy-girl ratio in the district. In a district, the boy-girl ratio is 10:9. Okay, this is our theoretical consideration. Boys and girls ratio is 10:9. But what we observe, we took a sample of 190 class 1 students. Out of these, 120 were boys and 70 girls. Are they in the same proportion? So for this, we have to make a simple, this is a case of hypothesis of known proportion. Is this ratio, observed ratios, same as theoretical ratio? This is data. Now we have to find out, in this case, the expected frequency. Observed frequencies are 120 and 70 respectively. Expected frequencies are calculated using the district ratio. So for boys, if there are out of 19, there are 10 boys. Out of 1, there should be 10 upon 19 boys. And out of 190, there should be 10 into this into 190. So 10 into 10 is 100. So if you follow this ratio 10:9, then there should be 100 boys and 90 girls. Girls ratio is 9 upon 19 into 190, 90. 9 upon 19 into 190. 10 multiplied by 9 is 90. If boys and girls were in the ratio of 10:9, then there should have been 100 boys and 90 girls. Now situation is FO is 120 boys and 70 girls. But FE is not equal. Okay, FE is not equal. FE is 100 and 90. This is FE. If it were hypothesis of equal distribution, equal probability, then it could have been 190 divided by 2. Okay, each should have been 190 divided by 2. 2 9s are 18, 2 5 are 10, 95. But because boys and girls are not equal, boys outnumber girls. Therefore, in this also, boys should outnumber girls. Now the question is whether there is any difference in these two distributions, 120, 70 and 190. Now we can use chi-square. This is data has been entered. We enter the observed distribution like this. These are the two. One variable is gender, one is boy, two is girl. Okay. And now we want to calculate chi-square. Analyze non-parametric legacy dialog. Even in one sample also we can do this, but this is easy. Now take this gender as here. Now all categories equal. Instead of this, we click this values. Now we give values to the two categories. First category is boys, so give expected frequency is 100. And now we are giving these values from our side because they are not equal. And second value is 90. Add. Okay. So these are the results. This is FO 120, 70, boys 120, girls 70. Expected 100, girls 90. And this is residual 20 in favor of boy, minus 20 in favor of girls. This is value of chi-square. And because the p-value is less than 0.01, therefore it is significant. And because all cell have expected frequency greater than 5, therefore assumption of this is not violated. So now it is simple to interpret. This is table 5, observed and expected frequency for gender. Table 6, test statistics for chi-square test. Interpretation. The footnote A to table shows that none of the expected frequency is less than 5. The minimum expected frequency is 90. The assumption of minimum frequency is not violated. Further, the value of chi-square is equal to 8.444, degree of freedom 1, p is 0.004, is significant at 0.01 level of significance because this is less than alpha 11. Therefore, the null hypothesis that ratio of boys to girls in enrollment of class 1 does not significantly deviate from their ratio is rejected. Yes, there is a significant deviation. Table 5 shows the residual for boys is positive, meaning that the boys to girls ratio is skewed in their favor and works to the disadvantage of girls. That is, this ratio is not as per the district ratio, and boys are, this ratio is skewed, is tilted towards boys rather than the girls. This is the results of our chi-square analysis. And finally, the third case, the hypothesis of independence of attributes. So we have a situation where we have 2 by 2 cross tabulation. So see this data. This is a situation we have irregular students and regular students, those who attend class regularly and those who attend classes irregularly. Short of attendance. They are regular students. And this is the result, fail, pass. So 15 fail, out of irregular students, 15 have failed and 15 have passed. There are total 30 students who were irregular in studies. There were 40 students who were regular in studies. Out of these, only 5 failed, but 35 passed. Okay, is there any relationship between these two, or is result independent of regularity in the class? This is the research question. Null hypothesis is the result of the student is independent of their regularity in the class. Now entering this data, okay, is a little different, a little difficult, not difficult, little different. Now here we have two things. One is result, another is regularity. Okay. So the data will be entered in two columns. Now in data we will have two columns. Now from this, let me have a new, open a new data file. Okay, this is new data file. Now I have two variables. One variable is result. Okay. Another variable is regularity of the student. Okay. And both are nominal scale variable. One is, suppose result 0 is fail. You can have 1 or 2 also. 1 is pass. Similarly, regularity 0 is irregular. And 1 is regular. Go to data. Now we have to enter the data. Now first of all, let us come to the result. First result is 20 students have failed in all and 50 have passed out of 70. 20, therefore we will enter 0 20 times and 1 50 times. So enter 0 20 times, result 0 20 times, 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 20 times, and 1 50 times, because total number of students is 70. So we are entering 1 1 1 1 1 up to 70. Okay, now out of these 20 who have failed, so 20 students have failed, result out of these 20, no, 15 are irregular and 5 are regular. So 15 0 and 5 1. 15 times 0, we will enter 0 up to 15. And then 5 as 1. Okay. So if we want to view the level also, we can click at value level. So these are the failed students. Okay. 20 are the students with failed result. Out of these, 15 are irregular, 5 are regular. Now those who passed, out of them 5 were irregular. Out of those, these 50. No, we have entered this data, fail 20, pass this. Then irregular, out of 20 failed, 15 were irregular, 5 were regular. Out of these 50 who passed, there are 15 irregular and 35 regular. So 15 0 and 35 1. Fifteen 0 up to 35 we will have 0 and then 1. Here 15 0 and then 35 1. So this is how the data is entered. First we enter the first variable. First variable entered. First variable has two values, fail 20. Okay, fail is up to 20. From 1 to 20, fail is 20. But out of these failed, some are irregular, some are regular. So irregular are 15. And these remaining 5 are regular. Similarly, in pass. So this is how we enter the data. Now, coming to this, I have say this. Now here regularity is the first column, result is the second column. Doesn't matter. Now, how to find out chi-square? Same, analyze. Now, we will not use this non-parametric, but we will use this option, descriptive and cross tabulation, because now we are having data in cross tabulation. That were one sample case. Okay, now we have two sample case, two things are there. So regularity and result. Regularity is row or column. Let us see, regularity is row and result is column. Okay. So regularity we take it row as row, result we take as column. Okay. And now see here statistics. This is chi-square. Just continue. Okay. So we get this table, regularity, irregular 15, fail, pass 15, regular 5, 35, and total 20, 50, and 70. And this is chi-square table. Okay. Now, I have taken these here. Chi-square test output, regularity into result cross tabulation. And next table is chi-square. The value of chi-square is 11.812. It is significant, okay, because it is p-value is 0.001, which is less than 0.01. So table 8 presents results of chi-square test for the 2x2 cross tabulation. It is clear from footnote that assumption is not violated. Therefore, we will interpret significance of chi-square test. Now chi-square value is significant. Therefore, result of the student is independent of regularity is rejected. Now result rejected, we now need not do residual analysis in this particular case because it is a simple case. If we can simply observe the frequencies, from observation of the frequency, it is clear that there is significantly greater chance of getting the pass result if you are a regular student. Well, you need not do residual analysis, but from this frequency, we can see here, those who are passing are 35. If you are regular, you pass. No, pass percentage is 35 out of 50, and here it is 15. So by mere observation, you can conclude that for passing, getting a passing result, you must be a regular student. Irregular students have a chance to fail rather than pass. Now, lastly, we come to effect size. Now, if there is A formula for effect size for cross tabulation is Kramer's, this is known as Kramer's V, and Kramer's V is chi square divided by Tn, where T is smaller of R minus 1 into and C minus 1. R is row, C is column. See, we have a 2 by 2 frequency table. So R is 2, C is 2. So T is smaller of 2 minus 1, 2 minus 1. If this is 1, this is also 1. The smaller of 1 and 1 is 1. So T is 1. But in this formula applies to any general cross tabulation. Say 3 by 2, 4 by 2, 4 by 3. Tomorrow we will take up such cross tabulation. This formula will apply to that situation also. Now here row is 3, 1, 2, 3. So R is 3. Column is 1, 2, 3, 4. Column is 4. So row minus 1 is 3 minus 1. Column minus 1 is 3. So 3 minus 1 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. So T is 2. So Kramer's V will be value of chi square divided by 2 into n. So n is the sample size. T is smaller of these two quantities, R minus 1 and C minus 1. R is row, C is column. Now effect size for one-way table. Because in one-way table, we just have male, female, finish. Or science, social science, humanities, others. We have 4 categories, just one column or one row. So in such case, effect size is pi coefficient and it is simply chi square divided by n. So in case of, and they are interpreted like R. If the value is 0.1, it is low, 0.3 is medium, and 0.5 is large. This is Cohen's guideline. And in case of 2 by 2 cross tabulation, Kramer V is same as pi coefficient because T is 1. So this formula reduces to this formula for T is equal to 1. But this is for general cross tabulation, this formula holds. Okay. So we calculate effect size in relation to this. Kramer's V is Vinod ka phone hai. Refer to the problem of girls boys ratio. So effect size is Kramer V and which is same as pi coefficient and it is chi square divided by n. So 8.444 divided by 190 under root. So if you calculate it, 0.444 divided under root 0.667. Since Kramer's V or pi coefficient exceed 0.5, it means that the effect size is large as per Cohen's guideline. Now last is case of assumption violation. If assumption is violated, minimum frequency assumption is violated, then what should we do? So in such case, let us see one sample case. We have a toss of coin, head, 2 heads and 7 tail, and we apply non-parametric test, chi-square test. Okay, all frequencies, all categories are equal. So this is the output. Here 2 cells have expected frequency less than 5. There are only 2 cells. This is cell 1. It is expected frequency is 4.5, which is less than 5. Second cell also has expected frequency less than 5. So we cannot apply chi-square. Then what should we do? So for such situation, we should use binomial test, which dispenses with this particular under chi-square test. Next to chi-square test is binomial test. So use this test. You take toss here and apply this. These are the results of binomial test. Interpret binomial test rather than the chi-square test. Okay, this is the alternative to a binary chi-square test. So in one sample case, toss of a coin, this is the result of chi-square test. These are results of binomial test. And right interpretation, because two cell, 100% cell have expected count less than 5, therefore assumption of chi-square test is violated. Therefore, binomial test is appropriate for testing hypothesis. Table 11 presents the result of binomial test. Clearly, the observed proportion are not significantly different from 0.5, as the two-tailed exact significance is 0.180, which is greater than 0.05. Hence, the null hypothesis that there is no significant difference in the number of head and tail in several toss of coin is not rejected. Therefore, the coin is used is fair. Well, it is reaching at the same conclusion via binomial test. Now, this is another example of 2 by 2 cross tabulation if it is violated. Results are violated. Now we have male, female, and surgery. In families, if you are a male and doctors advise surgery, 7 people have been operated upon and 2 have not been operated upon. In case of females, 3 got surgery, 7 did not get the surgery. So is the decision to have surgery even after the advice of the doctor dependent on gender? This is the research question. We apply, in this case, we apply first chi-square test and see whether assumption is violated. So we go to analyze descriptive cross tabulation because it is 2 by 2. So we have gender here and surgery column. Okay, and then statistics chi-square. Continue. Okay. So these are the results of chi-square test. Now footnote says 3 cell, that is there are in all 4 cell, out of which 3 cell have expected count less than 5. Okay, the minimum expected count is 4.26. Therefore, the assumption gets violated. In such situation, we should interpret Fisher exact probability test, and we will interpret this 0.070. So this is the result of chi-square test. Okay, because the minimum expected frequency assumption is violated, so we are not interpreting chi-square test. Table 13 gives you result of 2 by 2 cross tab. It is clear that 75% of the cells, they are having expected frequency less than 5. Therefore, the assumption is violated. Therefore, Fisher exact test will be used rather than the chi-square test. And the probability is 0.07, which is greater than 0.05. Therefore, it is not significant. Thus, the null hypothesis that the decision of taking surgery is independent of gender is not rejected. Therefore, gender of a person is not significantly associated with surgery decision. So, thank you all for giving me the patient hearing. I am now stopping share and looking for any question, chat. There is no question. Dr. Pramod Gupta, over to you for any question.
Thank you, sir.
अभी मैं आपको रात में फोन करता हूँ, है ना? आप सारे सर्टिफिकेट बना लो तब तक।
क्या हुआ? Is there any question? There is question. Can we use binomial test in the last option? No. Binomial test is not used in 2 by 2 cross tabulation situation. Binomial test is used when there are just two categories: male, female, right, wrong, etc. Binary. Which three cell shows less than 5 in last table? एक सवाल है. One question is this. Okay. Let me answer this question. So I am again sharing just for a minute. Share screen. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I am going to that. This one. 75% of the expected count are less than 5. So this person is asking which three cell. Okay. Now this is the data example. We will have to go to the data. Actually, it doesn't matter what he wants to know, he or she wants to know. So this is the data. Okay. What did we do? Analyze, descriptive, explore. No, sorry. Cross tab. Analyze, descriptive, cross tabulation. Okay. Gender, surgery. Okay. Statistics. Now here you find cell. So in this cell you check this expected frequency. Then continue. Okay. I did not do it for the sake of confusing. See, 4.7 is one's expected frequency, 4.3 is second, 5.3 is third, 4.7 is fourth. So out of these four, only one is above 5. These three are less than 5. I hope your question is answered. How to decide which variable has to be put in row or column? You can put any variable in row and any variable in column. Okay, it doesn't matter. But because we wrote while making the table in data, we wrote this in row. Therefore, I wrote that in row. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to see. A little difficulty will come for you to see that it is the same thing. It doesn't matter. Okay, any other? I'm waiting for any other question.
Rashid Faruqi is asking that chi-square test used as parametric and non-parametric both.
Yeah.
राशिद जी पूछ रहे हैं कि काई स्क्वायर टेस्ट क्या पैरामेट्रिक और नॉन पैरामेट्रिक दोनों यूज कर पाएंगे?
नहीं,
नहीं।
chi-square test is a non-parametric test. I do not know of any parametric chi-square test. Chi-square test is a non-parametric test because it does not insist on distributional assumption. Number one. Number two, it is used on nominal scale variable. It is not a parametric test. It is non-parametric test. और कोई कुछ पूछ रहे हो आपसे तो बताइए.
बस इतना ही, एक ही क्वेश्चन था. तो नाउ many thanks to you, sir.
आवाज नहीं आ रही सर आपकी बिल्कुल.
अब आ रही है सर?
हाँ अब आ रही है. यस यस, नाउ यू आर ऑडिबल.
अभी कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है सर.
ठीक
और
है.
मैनी मैनी थैंक्स टू यू सर
थैंक
for
यू
your
सर, थैंक
valuable
यू.
time, and many thanks to all participants. We will meet again tomorrow.
एक मिनट एक मिनट, एक सवाल है
But
पूजा
that,
कुमारी. एक सवाल और आया पूजा कुमारी
okay,
का.
okay.
डज सिग्निफिकेंस लेवल ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड रेजिडुअल वेरी? तो अभी जैसे मैंने